Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello, my name is Bree and I love zines. If you're not familiar with what a zine is, it's basically just like a DIY magazine, but the main difference between magazines and zines are that zines are primarily made for self-expression rather than making a bunch of money. That's not to say that you can't make money from your zines. You definitely can, but you will not find zines in a Target or a Barnes & Noble or, you know, one of those big chain stores like you would find magazines. But zines are awesome. I love making zines so much, and today I want to take you on a tour of some of my gay zines. Okay, first zine I want to show you guys is called Missed Call, and it's a short story. I actually wrote the short story back in, I think, 2015 or 2016, but then I later shortened the story and edited it to fit into an 8-page mini zine in June 2018. So it's a short story about a breakup I had in high school and how after high school, years of not talking to her, right? Like she broke up with me in high school, years passed, and then I got a missed call from her. So the zine is about what could she have possibly said to me, because the breakup was very much a breakup, you know? Felt really bad, thought about her a lot, and then years passed and now she's calling me. Crazy. So I made a whole zine about it. And this is actually one of the first zines I ever made. I started making zines back in 2017. So this is about a year into my zine journey, and I made this one just from cutting and pasting a bunch of stuff. So the cover, really cool to me because it's all just my handwriting. I doodled all of that. I drew a bunch of pomegranates and scanned it and messed with the filters on my computer a little bit. This is actually a little scrap from what is on my nail? Huh? This is a little scrap from a post-it note. This was really fun to make because of the cut. Why did I say make like that? Fun to make. This was really fun to make because of the cut and paste style of everything. My zines have definitely evolved, but I love this kind of archaic, messy, raw way of making a zine. The story, okay, spoiler alert, I'm not going to read the whole zine, but I'm going to tell you what it's about. So spoiler, if you don't want to hear it and you'd rather just read it on your own and buy it from my shop or whatever, then skip ahead to the next zine. But Missed Call is about me getting a missed call from my ex-girlfriend, and I'm like, what could she possibly say? Because in high school when she broke up with me, it wasn't because of like incompatibility or anything. It was because her parents didn't approve of our relationship. They successfully convinced her not to date me or date women. So that's why the heartbreak was so intense, because it's like, cool, I really love this person and they really love me too, but they're choosing not to be with me because of these norms that they want to fit into, or, you know, disapproval from their parents. All of this kind of stuff that I definitely understand. I'm not faulting her for it or anything, but it was fucking painful. I got a missed call. The whole perspective is me sitting in a coffee shop, seeing that I got the missed call and thinking, wait, our breakup was not the kind of breakup where you could just talk to me after, you know, it's gonna be really intense. So I'm sitting there thinking about our past, thinking about how she broke up with me, and then I texted her, sorry, I missed your call, like, what's up? And she ended up texting me back that it was nothing, actually, it was just a butt dial. So very heartbreaking. The last paragraph here says, suddenly the anticipation I've allowed to build up pops like a balloon pumped with too much air. I hurriedly flip my phone over to find that you replied. My eyes quickly glaze over your 3-word response, leaving me to feel completely deflated. I can't help but wish the letters could form the words I've always wanted you to say to me, but instead it simply reads, sorry, butt dial. So can you imagine? I'm like, the anticipation is bubbling. I'm like, wow, we broke up because your parents didn't want us to be together. You move on with your life. We both move on, right? We don't speak to each other after that breakup, after that day. And then I get a missed call from her. That's what this is about. I do want to show you guys what it looks like when you unfold the entire thing. Just look at that. Look how cool that is. So I typed everything up on a Word document and then cut them out. It took me forever to try to fit the size to the page. It was a lot of trial and error, and you could see a lot of collaging I did and a lot of marker. All of this is just ripped up paper. Ripped up paper, doodling. I used some colored pencils in there. These were her favorite colors. She really liked blue and pink. And so I try to incorporate them in here, and she always ate fruit. So that was why I put the pomegranates in there, because she was the type of person where, you know how like when you peel an orange and the residue and the smell is like all over you and all over your hands? She was that type of person where it's like, you just ate an orange, didn't you? Or you just ate a pomegranate, didn't you? Because you can smell it on her. And so that's why I put that all throughout, because it just reminded me of her. And I really liked being able to incorporate visuals with the words. And because it's so small, it's so tiny, right? This actually comes in a variety zine pack with a couple of other zines, but when you get variety zine pack volume 2, it comes with a tiny little magnifying glass, because when I started making this was a long time ago that I made this variety zine pack. I thought it would be cool to include a little tiny magnifying glass so you can read it. You can read it with your eyes. It's not that small, but I thought it'd be something fun. So let me show you guys. So this is the zine pack that it comes in. It comes with 4 other zines, and there's the little magnifying glass. So it's just like a fun little addition to add, and that is Missed Call. And the second one I want to show you guys is way more recent. So Missed Call was way back in the day. Like, it was published in 2018, but I wrote the story even earlier than that. So that was a very, very old, right? So we're jumping ahead to 2025, where I made this zine here. This was an Outfit of the Day zine. And by now, okay, in Missed Call, I forgot to mention, back when I wrote that zine, my art started blowing up. So people that I knew, including people that me and my ex-girlfriend both knew, were reading my zines, and I was not prepared for that sort of attention on my work. And I was very vulnerable in what I wrote, and not everybody knew that I dated women, especially my family. So I was very afraid of things getting back to my family, or just people gossiping about me and not really having a real interest in my life and my stories, but just using it as a form of like talking crap about me. I was really terrified of that when I first started getting traction on my videos and my zines. So then I stopped writing about women in my zines for a long time. So that's why there's a big jump. The huge timeline from 2018 to 2025. Most of the zines that I've written, a lot of them will be about failed relationships with men. And that was because I identified as bisexual, but to my family I was straight. So they only knew about the men I dated. They did not know about the women I dated. That's why I didn't write about them in my zines, which I do regret. I'll talk about that later, but this is 2025. This is a zine, an ode to my jorts. I love these freaking jorts that I bought. They look just like this. They have the camo print and everything. I bought them from Cotton On, and I was kind of on the fence about buying them because they were $60. I was like, whoa, I don't remember pants costing that much. I'm the type of person, I wear the same clothes all the time. I try to like mix it up by just styling my clothes, but I decided to buy a new pair of pants for the first time in a very long time, and I was so shocked by the price of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm getting something out of this. I'm getting more out of this than just jorts. So I decided to make a zine as well, and this is my Outfit of the Day zine. That's what OOTD means. And there's a little pocket there for the barcode. And these are my keys. I wear them on the side of my pants like this. And there's a little carabiner that comes with it. And when you open it up, it's just me wearing my outfit. Them's the jorts. This is how I styled it. I was just wearing my Zine Machine t-shirt. I talk about basically my OOTD, like where I got everything. More of me in my jorts. This was really fun to make because I got to make these paper transfer stickers. So these were actually magazine pages. And what I do is I take some tape like this and I place it over a magazine page, something really cool image, cool collage or whatever in a magazine. And then I dip the piece of tape with the magazine clipping on it and I put it in a bowl of water. And after it's in there for a few minutes, it gets really soggy on the back and you can wipe away all the excess paper and you'll have this cool overlay sticker. So that's what I did with these because I thought it fit the theme of the zine. Same, like these are my keys, but behind it is another one I did. So you can see through it. So you see this grid paper here? You can see through the sticker too, which is why I love making paper transfer stickers. If you haven't seen the video I made about making paper transfer stickers, you should definitely check it out because it would work really well in your zines, or if you're just a crafty person in general, it looks really good in junk journals and diaries. It's really cool, mixed media. And then on the back here is just the jorts lore. So I talk about how I got the jorts and the cashier that sold them to me. So when I went to Cotton On and I finally decided like, let me just get these pants. I had just left the gym. So this, I don't recommend doing this. I don't know why, it was just an impulsive moment. But I just got out of the gym, so I was super sweaty and gross. And then I decide that's a good time to go try on pants. Like, that's so gross. But I was like, I really want these pants. I've been thinking about them all week. I thought about them for like a week and 4 days, I think. I put it in here. I was so on the fence about buying these damn camo jorts. For one, they cost $60, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to treat myself that hard. Secondly, my weight fluctuates all the time because I lift at the gym, and I was scared I would fit them just fine in March, but outgrow them by June. It took a week and 4 days for me to finally drive back to Cotton On and make the purchase. So that's exactly what happened. I thought about him for a week and 4 days, and then after the gym one day, like early in the morning, I went to the gym at 7, so I got out at 8, and I think Cotton On opened at 9. or something like that. So I drove right over, tried them on, and I was like, I'm buying them. I was so excited. I go up to the cashier, about to buy them, and the cashier is really cute. She's a really cute girl with pink glasses, and we're just talking. She's asking me what I do for work. And I was like, oh, I'm a content creator. I make zines. And she's like, oh, can I write down your Instagram? So she pulls out a piece of paper from under her desk or cashier, what is it called? Register. She pulls out a piece of paper and in big highlighter writes down my username, writes down brattyxbre, because that's what I told her it was. And then she said she would follow me, check me out and stuff. And then as I'm leaving, I'm like, oh, I should ask her name. I didn't want to be creepy. That's like the last thing I want to do. I never hit on people at work. I think that's so inappropriate, even though I did think she was really cute. And I think there was a vibe going on. That's just not the kind of person I am. I don't do that. Like a true flirt, I'm a flirt, okay? And a true flirt flirts with no expectation of anything in return. That's just how you flirt. You don't think, oh, that maybe this is the one or this is gonna turn into a relationship. No. Flirting, you enjoy the moment, you flirt, and then that's it. You'll leave everything on the floor there, and then if you see each other again, you see each other again. That's the way that I operate. So I had a good time talking to her and everything. So then as I'm leaving, I'm like, oh, what's your name? And guys, guess what her name was? You'll never guess what her name was. Her name was Zina.
She was Zina, a mighty princess forged in the heat of battle.
So if you're a little bit older like I am, you know about Zina, the warrior princess, but also it's like zines. So I couldn't help myself from saying that when she told me her name was Zina. I was like, oh my God, that's so cute, like zines. And then that's when I kind of stopped being a flirt. I was like, oh wait, nope. I'm not gonna form limerence over this random cashier just because her name sounds like a zine. I had to stop myself. So I left. I kind of got flustered. That's not usually like me. I'm not afraid to talk to women. I'm not afraid to flirt. But then once she told me her name was Zina and she smiled at me the way that she smiled at me, I never went back to that store again because I was like, I cannot handle this. This is just overloaded. I'm panicking. And so I left with my jorts and the memory. So that's what this zine is about. And I wrote that in here as well. I said, oh my God, how cute, like a zine. She smiled at me and I thought about her long after I had already left the store. I kicked myself because I should have asked her if she also makes zines, what her Instagram is, and if she likes girls. But like I said, that thought occurred to me only after she told me her name. Usually I flirt and I let it go. But that one, she caught me slipping a little bit. But that's what the zine is about. And it's one of my favorites. I do have a limited amount available in my shop because of the handmade nature of it and just how much detail and effort goes into it. They are limited edition. I think I only have a few copies left in my shop. I don't know, but definitely check it out if you want to experience this in real life. All right, and the last zine I want to show you guys is also a recent one. This was published a few months ago for Pride. So I made this in June of 2025, and it's called I Wasn't Avoidant, I Was Just Gay. And I do want to preface this by saying that my experiences do not represent all lesbians, all people that dealt with compet or that are struggling to identify if they are actually bisexual or lesbian, okay? This is just my experience. I never want to say like this is the experience that, oh, you're not avoidant, you're just a lesbian. Like, that's not what I'm saying. This is my experience. I literally, for a long time, thought that I was avoidant, and I dated men and women, but I always knew that I was gay. So I don't know if that makes sense, but my experience was that I grew up in a very small town in North Carolina. My population was 5,000 people, very small town. There was a lot of religion and a lot of racism. But on top of that, knowing that I was gay at such a young age, but living in and around these people that have homophobia laced into their beliefs was really difficult to navigate. And so when I faced a lot of backlash for being gay, like one of my first experiences, okay, this is like such a funny story when I think about it, but it's gonna sound sad, okay? So just could be a little triggering for some people. But when I was like 7 or 8 years old, right, is when I realized I was gay. But like I said, I kind of always knew even before that revelation, because it was just natural for me to find attraction towards girls. And because I was a kid, it's kind of weird to say attraction because I don't mean in sexual attraction. It just means like, I like this girl, you know? It was never like, oh, I like these boys. But it did become that because I realized that being gay was bad because of the experiences I've had where people called my behavior gay. And so then I was like, oh, well, if I'm supposed to like boys, which was like this belief by society that heterosexual relationships are the norm, especially in my town, especially where I grew up, right? That was just the norm. And also I do want to say that that when I was growing up, being gay was not as accepted as it can be now. I'm not saying that happens for everyone. There is still a lot of homophobia that happens in all parts of the world. But for my age, it was not common for people to just openly and proudly say that they were gay. It was still pretty much a taboo thing. Like, they had commercials on TV that would say,
you know, you really shouldn't say that.
Say what?
Well, say that something's gay when you mean it's bad. It's insulting. What if every time something was bad, everybody said, oh, that's so girl wearing a skirt as a top?
Oh, you are.
Those are cute jeans, though. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
I hold a lot of space in my heart and just a lot of love for people that come out later in life and then have to see young people making fun of you for not being a day one gay or something like that. I hate when I see stuff like that because I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's more accepted now. And like I said, this is not for everyone. I'm not trying to generalize, but I just see a lot of more openly gay people that are young and then they, you know, criticize people for not being as open or not coming out sooner. And it's just like, there's so many factors into someone coming out. Like, a lot of people just don't know that, like, compet is really a thing. This could be forcing yourself to be straight because you realize that you're not straight and then you just force it because you want to be accepted by society or by your family. Or maybe you don't even know, you shove it down so much you don't even know that it's just so deep in your subconscious that you just are in these hetero relationships because you don't even realize that you're a lesbian, you know? That those things are very real. And there's so many factors, you know? So I just wanted to put that out there, but I also digressed a lot. So what I was saying is that one of my very first experiences of realizing I was gay, I was like 6 or 7 years old. I was really, really young. And my friend stole her mom's lipstick and she was putting it on in front of me. And I was like, I want some too, like save some for me. But it was a very used up tube of lipstick. It was like almost gone. So she's using so much that the lipstick's breaking off. I could see it like stuck in the tube and I'm like, great, now I'm not going to be able to use any of it. And so she, my friend, who is straight, by the way, this was not meant to be homoerotic in any way. And she has no idea what it did for me because she was literally being a kid and just having fun and having an idea, right? So she was like, oh, well, I use so much of it and sorry, there's this metal tube now with no lipstick in it, but because I have so much on, if I just kiss you, it'll transfer the lipstick over to your lips. And I was just like, okay, great idea. Like I said, not in any way thinking that this is gay. And for the most part, I don't even know what gay is at this age, right? That's what I mean to say is like, I knew I was gay, but I didn't know exactly what that meant. I just knew that I like girls. I didn't think it was abnormal at all. Anyway, we kissed and to her, she's like, great, cool. Now you have lipstick. To me, bro, I'm like, what was that? Because to me, I've never kissed anybody and it was with a girl. And I was like, what in the fuck was that? That was amazing. And so I went home and I told my uncle because I didn't go home to tell him. He was there folding clothes and he asked me why my lips were so red. Because like I said, we're kids. We don't know how to use lipstick. The application was all wrong. It was all over my nose. It was all over my chin. And he's like, did you eat a popsicle or something? Like, why is your face all red? And then so I told him the story. And after he heard it, he stopped folding the clothes and he was like,
that's fucking gay.
And I was like, okay. Because like I said, I don't know what gay is. I don't know that that's bad. And so I'm just like, okay. And then he's like, I'm telling your mom that you did some gay shit. Okay. And that was like my first experience with homophobia and where I was like, oh, me liking girls is bad. So now I have to like boys. And that was really, really young. So, and let me just say there was a lot of homophobia in the home, not just with my uncle. We lived with a lot of people and almost everybody was expressing some kind of homophobia. So I just learned to tone it down, but not in the way where I denied my interest in girls. It just became this thing where I was like, okay, maybe I like both. Maybe I like boys and girls. And so I would just go around collecting boyfriends because I was so indifferent to them. You know, I was mostly friends with them. So it was very easy to talk to them. So because it was so easy to talk to them, it would turn into a relationship really easily just from proximity alone. And that's what the zine is about because I was so young when that happened and I continued doing that my whole life, like gaslighting myself into thinking I was bisexual when really deep down, like I said, my first experience ever of me remembering, oh, I like girls, it was so young, but then trying to shove it down, but not shoving it down completely and just being like, oh, well, bisexuality is a thing. Maybe I'm bi. And it took me years to realize after dating both men and women, right? I've always dated men and women, but I did not fall in love with the men, but I always fell in love with the women. Not all the women, some of the women sucked. What I'm trying to say is that when I would date men, it just it didn't feel the same. And I wrote about this in one of these pages, I'll read it. I never felt passion, cute nervousness, butterflies. I liked hanging out, but didn't want them to touch me. I enjoyed laughing together, but couldn't say I love you. I hurt a lot of men on accident from not knowing myself deeply enough. And a lot of men hurt me because they sensed my detachment and wanted to test if I cared. Not to say all of these guys are saints. Oh my God, a lot of them weren't. But that didn't make me feel any less guilt for not showing up emotionally for them. So I went to therapy and she told me I was avoidant, said I was guarded, gave me homework on how to open up. She told me how I should feel about these men and unintentionally made me realize I only felt this way for women. Passion, cute nervousness, butterflies. When I realized, oh, I'm not avoidant, I'm just a lesbian, I was already back with Gabe. Not to romanticize anything, but I could see myself having a family with you, he told me on Halloween. Later, when we went to sleep, he kissed me on the forehead and said it was okay, I didn't want to be intimate. He liked me anyway. Then he held my hand even though I was turned away from him, and I silently cried all night until I saw the sunrise through his blinds. Ooh, that was a little vulnerable, but that's pretty much what this zine is about. Is just like, oh, I was never bisexual. I did kind of trick myself into thinking that that's what I was, that I liked both men and women, and that I sought out these hetero relationships because it was safer and easier for my family to understand than me to openly love a woman. Like, that was my experience. And not to say that bisexuality is bad, that's just not what I was. That's just that wasn't the term. I was incorrectly using a label for myself that wasn't applicable to me. It didn't apply to me, but I didn't realize that until way later. You know, having to face my identity when I was out of the home. So when I moved out, a lot of that, like, even though it was traumatic and I had to figure it out on my own without a blueprint and just really fail a lot and have days where I was like short on rent or, you know, really struggling, how to get a side job, how to do a lot of things for money. Even within that, it gave me space away from my family to face my identity head on and realize who I was at my core. And that's what's so crazy about zines, is that you learn so much about yourself. I never try to be a know-it-all and think that I know everything about me. Like, I don't know everything it means to be Brie. I'm still learning as I go. And I think that's very indicative in all of these zines. I don't even know everything about being gay. Like, I don't know. There's so many things that I will uncover as I move on throughout my life. But I think that's why it's really important to make zines and document these things, because not only is it helping me, it's helping people that read it. So that concludes our gay zine tour that nobody asked for, but I decided to show you anyway. A lot of people ask me if I ever regret sharing things in my zines, and the answer is no. I don't regret anything that I share. I mean, I may cringe sometimes looking back at some of the stuff, but I like to look at my zines as sort of like photographs of different portions of my life or different periods of my life. So the same way that you can look back at a photograph of yourself from 2018 to now, you can see how much you've grown and how different you look. I feel the same way about my zines. I feel like the things that I express in them, they show just a portion of time. And just because you read something in a zine now doesn't mean I feel the same way about it or have the same opinion about it. So my life are like my zines. My life imitates the zine, or the zine, what is this saying? Life imitates art or whatever. Life imitate zine. I sound like a caveman when I say that. Life imitate zine. But no, I don't regret anything because I accept myself. I don't even know myself to the fullest capacity that I probably will when I'm older, you know? But I will say, if I do have any regrets when it comes to my zine making, is not documenting more of the relationships I've had with women. And the biggest reason why I didn't do that is because my family and people I know started reading my work. So like back in 2020, 2021, I started posting a lot of zine content on TikTok and on Instagram, and it kind of blew up. And so I was getting more eyes on me, and I felt really uncomfortable having people see what I was making my art about or reading my zines. So I started repressing a lot of myself because I didn't want them to know those things about me. It was very vulnerable, and a lot of those people were not close to me but just being nosy or something. I started hearing things about me around like social groups in my city or back in my hometown, and I'm just like, oh man, they know that from reading my zines, and I feel like they don't deserve to know these parts of me. So I started repressing what I would write, and I wouldn't write about the women that I've dated in my zines anymore. So you can see the timeline, how in 2018, when I first started making zines around that time, I did write a lot about the women that I've dated, but then over time you can see it really got straight as fuck. Like, I was just dating a lot of men and talking about my experiences dating them, but that's not to say that during those years of time that I wasn't dating women. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't want people to know about because my family didn't know. Like, my parents still don't know. Like, I mean, I'm sure they know to an extent, but I've never really went up to my parents and been like, hey, I'm gay, I only date women. You know, that's never been a talk. I just let them believe what they wanted to believe based off what I was writing. So if you read a lot of my zines and you're seeing me talk about a lot of former boyfriends, you might assume that I only date men. I would let you believe that. Like, I would let people believe that because I didn't want to have to deal with the aftermath of like my family asking me questions or people using my life as gossip. But like I said, the regret is there that I didn't share more of that because my zines are definitely a reflection of my life. So when you read a lot of those zines where I'm frustrated of the men I've dated, those are real, raw, visceral feelings. And I was able to express them onto paper and in such a way that it captured a moment in time. Like, if you took a picture of me really upset and angry, you'll probably see veins bursting out my head, you'll see me sweating, you'll see my cheeks get red. That's hard to recreate. So that's how I think about my zines. It's really hard to tap into that feeling when it's not raw anymore, when it's not fresh. What I regret is not documenting the same ones, the same intense relationships or the same heartbreaks or the same loves that I've had with women because I didn't get to capture those raw, visceral feelings in the moment. Missed Call is one of those, like I explained when I was giving a tour of it, but then it kind of stopped because I was afraid of who would read what and who it would get to because I wasn't prepared to deal with that. I was in survival mode. I'm like, the relationship I had with my dad and having to leave the house, him waiting for his gotcha moment or his I told you so moment, it pushed me into a lane where I could only focus on making it. That's where my head was at. I'm not saying it was right or anything. I'm just saying that that's where I was. I was not fully prepared to double down and also be like, yeah, I'm an artist, which is this thing that you hate and you don't approve of, and
Also, I'm gay.
that was not something I was prepared to deal with, so I stopped writing about it. It doesn't mean that I stopped living it. I had a very gay life, you know, and I had a lot of good times, a lot of joy, a lot of great friendships too, but it just wasn't documented, and that's something I really do regret because I wasn't able to capture all those like raw feelings that I experienced throughout my 20s. But because I was going through so many things in my personal life, me really documenting my identity in that way wasn't a priority. Everybody's experience is different, you know, but that's mine. That's my experience. It's almost like I erased a part of my identity, which I've done a lot. Like I talked about in my zines, I've done that. I've struggled with that growing up in North Carolina. But to look back at my zines now and I'm like, oh, I wasted all these paper on men. And not to say that those relationships didn't matter, they definitely did. And I definitely, the love was real. But when I look back, it's like, man, I could have really had some zines that I think are very important within the queer print media community. There's a lot of queer zines out there. A lot. I will link down below. One of my favorite archives is a queer zine archive. But for myself personally, I would have loved to place myself within that timeline and share my experiences as a lesbian woman that is Hawaiian, Samoan, and Black, which I don't really see represented in any kind of media. I think it would have been really important to have my stories and my experiences within that identity documented. I think it would have been really helpful for the community, for people reading it that can identify or relate to any parts of my identity, or maybe you are nothing like me. Maybe you're the total opposite of me. Maybe you're a straight man in Connecticut somewhere, but you just would feel enlightened by reading someone's experience like mine. I think that's really important to put yourself into print because it legitimizes your experiences, not only for yourself, but for other people. I can't tell you how many times people have read my zines and said that they could relate to it, or it helped them through a dark time, or knowing that they weren't alone in something really validated them and their experiences. My zines are like, they're everything to me. And the fact that there's just like this huge chunk of my life missing from them, it really hurts to think about. I can do it now. And that's what a lot of my friends say when I talk to them about it. They're just like, just make the zines now about those people you dated. And I'm like, it's not the same. Like when I wrote You Kinda Suck 2 through 4, which are about relationships that really pissed me off, or I'm realizing things about myself that are a bit toxic, those things happen in the moment. So it was like fire. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's like when lightning strikes, you know? It was just so easy to pour out of me, and it was like I was tapping into something that was just overflowing. But now it's kind of like a still water. Like a lot of, like when I look back on my past, I've grown a lot. I've gotten over a lot of things. I've moved on. So it's hard for me to tap into those emotions as intensely to be able to make a whole zine about it. I mean, I could definitely talk about the people I've dated, but it's just not with the same fire under my ass. If you've read my You Kinda Suck zines, you understand what I'm talking about, because I talk a lot about my interpersonal relationships and things that have happened. Those things were happening like the month that I wrote that, you know, like I kept it in my mind when it was happening, so it was very raw, very fresh. But when I think back on the relationships I've had throughout my 20s with women, it's like, it's so far in the past, it's hard to tap into it. And same thing with the men I've dated, it's hard to tap into anything now. But I do have some experiences now. It's just like, I don't feel the need to complain about people I've dated anymore. So I'll have different ways to incorporate myself into my zines now. It's really been fun being able to talk about these things. I like being able to talk about my zines and yap and info dump and everything. So if you like that, thank you for sticking around to listen to it. That is all for now. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.